There are things you simply don't do in Japan. Not because of rules, but because of what's waiting when you break them. They say you should never whistle at night. Never sleep with your mirror uncovered. Never follow a tunnel that's not on the map. What happens if you do? These are horror stories based on real accounts. Unexplained events that locals whisper about but never fully explain. And once you hear them, you may start questioning your own reflection, or the voice calling from the other side of the paper door. So I'll ask you, would you dare test what the locals fear in silence? I was hiking alone in Gunma Prefecture, near Mount Akagi, following a trail I found in an old regional guidebook. The forest was quiet, humid, with a dense fog hanging low over the mossy ground. I wasn't expecting anything strange, just a worn path that supposedly led to a forgotten war memorial. But then I saw it. A tunnel I'd never seen on any map, perfectly round, carved into the hillside, maybe no more than 30 meters long. No warning signs, no graffiti, just a black entrance with cold air spilling from within and the sharp scent of rust and wet stone. Something about it felt wrong, like the woods didn't want me near it, but I stepped in anyway. The light faded fast. I turned on my phone flashlight, but the beam barely reached the tunnel's end. The walls absorbed the light like fabric. I took slow steps forward. The air was icy, and I noticed my breathing felt thinner. Beneath my boots, the gravel shifted into something softer. I thought it might be moss, until I heard it compress with a wet squish. It didn't feel alive, but it didn't feel dead either. Then my flashlight flickered. The tunnel stretched ahead, somehow longer now than when I entered. A cold buzz ran through my phone. I glanced at the screen. No signal, of course. But the time had changed. 3:11 a.m. My watch still said 4:41 p.m. I tried to laugh it off, but the air inside me didn't move. And then, from behind, I heard it. Not footsteps, but something heavier. A dragging sound. Slow, wet. My spine locked. I didn't turn around. I couldn't. That's when the voice began. Female, soft, whispering the same word, again and again. Madot, Madot. I spun around and shone the light, but there was nothing behind me. The air was dead still. I should have run, but something held me. The tunnel didn't feel like a place anymore. It felt like a mouth long and swallowing. I tried to walk quickly, then faster, but the end kept stretching further. I passed claw marks along the wall, deep and erratic, like someone had tried to climb out. Some of them were too high for a human hand. Then I broke through the other side. Bright light. Forest. But it wasn't the same forest I'd entered. The trees looked older, crooked, the colors slightly off. I turned to look back, and the tunnel was gone. Just a mossy hill, undisturbed. My heart raced. I opened GPS. No location found. I yelled, but no echo came back. It was like I'd stepped into a copy of the world, one that hadn't been touched in decades. I walked for hours, following downhill paths, until I reached what looked like a collapsed Shinto shrine. Rotted wood, broken stone, and at the center an old, cracked mirror. Something moved in it. I swear it moved before I did. I looked behind me. Nothing. When I looked back into the mirror, there was a hand on my shoulder, a pale one. My shoulder was bare. I didn't feel it, but I saw it. I passed out, or something like it. When I woke up, I was at the base of the mountain, next to the trailhead. My phone was at 3% battery. No missed calls, no alerts. It was 6:12 p.m. I had no memory of walking back, no soreness in my legs. My shoes were clean, too clean, like I hadn't stepped in dirt at all. I drove home in silence. I didn't tell anyone, not at first. A month later, I posted the story anonymously on a forum for urban explorers. I didn't expect a reply, but I got one from someone in Saitama. He said his brother disappeared in 2006 while hiking in Gunma. They found his backpack weeks later, but the trail camera he carried had only one photo saved, a warped tunnel carved into a hill. It looked exactly like the one I entered, except it was dated 2 days after he vanished. I've tried to find that tunnel again. I've traced every path, scoured maps, even returned with guides, but nothing is there. The hillside is smooth, as if it was never touched. Still, sometimes I dream of it. The voice, the dragging sound, the warped mirror, and that word, Madot, it still echoes behind my ears. If you ever find a tunnel in the Japanese forest with no markings, and the air smells like rust, don't go in, no matter how curious you are. Some paths lead out of the world. In some places, once you enter them, will never fully let you leave. My Aunt Keiko always said there were things you didn't do in a traditional Japanese house. You didn't sleep with your feet facing the altar. You didn't hang wind chimes inside. And no matter what happened, you never opened the sliding shoshi doors after midnight, especially if you heard someone knock from the other side. I used to laugh when she said it, back when I was a teenager staying at her countryside home in Nara during the summers. It was an old house, tatami floors, paper walls, and creaking wood that always made it feel like someone else was walking just a few rooms away. But after what I saw that last August, I don't laugh anymore. It started with the knocking, 3 soft taps, always around 12:40 a.m. I heard it first during a typhoon night, when the wind howled through the beams and the rain clattered hard against the wooden walls. I thought maybe a branch had hit the house, or an animal. But the next night, it came again. 3 soft, rhythmic knocks, not at the door to the hallway, but directly on the paper-thin shoji, separating my room from the inner courtyard. My aunt's room was on the other side. I called out to her. No answer. When I asked her the next morning, she froze, then said, "You didn't open it, did you?" I shook my head. Her face relaxed, but she refused to explain further. The next night, the knocking came earlier, 12:22 a.m. This time it was louder, closer to a scraping than a knock. I sat up, heart thudding, holding my breath. I heard the paper rustle as if someone's fingers dragged slowly across it from the other side. Then silence. I waited. A shadow passed. It wasn't human-shaped. Longer, as if something was crawling upright. I told myself it was the wind, or my imagination. But in my gut, I knew the house was trying to warn me. Something was pressing against it, from somewhere it didn't belong. On the 4th night, I made a mistake. I tried to record the sound on my phone. I sat in front of the shoji, phone camera ready, waiting for the knocking. It didn't come. For 20 minutes, nothing happened. Then, my screen glitched just a flash, like a frame skipping. And then the door rippled. The paper didn't tear. It moved, like it had become liquid for a second. I dropped the phone. When I picked it up, the video was gone, replaced by a single still image. Me, sleeping on the futon, with something crouched next to me. Tall, thin, pitch black, with long fingers reaching toward my face. I hadn't taken that picture. I ran to my aunt's room in the dark. She was already awake, sitting on the edge of her futon with her back to me, whispering something I couldn't understand. Her hands trembled in her lap. When she finally spoke, she said, "You invited it. You watched it. That's enough." She got up and started covering all the doors with salt lines and talismans. She taped the corners of every window and refused to sleep. The house changed after that. Colder, dimmer. We stopped using half the rooms. I wasn't allowed to be alone. The final night came during Oban, the festival for the dead. My aunt left incense at every threshold and played old folk chants on a cassette player she hadn't touched in decades. I tried to stay awake, but something pulled at me. Not physically, but with memory visions of people I'd never met, places I'd never seen. I woke up to silence. The chants had stopped. The incense had gone out, and the knocking had returned, but not at the shoji. It came from the ceiling. I stood frozen, listening to the slow, deliberate knocks moving from one end of the room to the other, directly above me. The house was 1 floor. There was no attic. Then, A soft thud landed on the tatami behind me. I turned. The shoshi was open just a crack. I saw a black finger, impossibly thin, retreating through the gap. I shut my eyes and whispered the only word I could remember from my aunt's chants. I don't even know what it meant. In the morning, my aunt was gone. The futon still laid out. The incense burned through. The cassette player rewound, but she was nowhere in the house. I waited 2 days before calling the police. They searched the property, found nothing, not even footprints. In the weeks that followed, I stayed with neighbors, but I dreamed of the house every night. And in every dream, the shochi was open. 2 months later, I received a package. No return address. Inside was my phone, the one I lost that night. It was wiped clean, except for one folder, locked with a password I didn't create. I cracked it eventually. It contained only one video. I pressed play. It was me, standing at the shoshi, slowly sliding it open, and smiling as something stepped through. I've never gone back to Nara, but sometimes, at exactly 12:22 a.m., I wake up to the sound of paper sliding softly in the dark. Not everything in Japan is meant to be understood. Some tunnels never existed. Some doors were never built to open. And once you hear the knocking, it's already too late. So tell me, do you still believe these are just stories? Or have you heard something behind your door too? Leave a comment if you've ever felt something watching you in the dark. And if you're brave enough, subscribe. But don't open the shoji after midnight.